extra bodies as well.
And locals are glad to see it.
I think everybody's doing a great job keeping the place clean, keeping the place safe. I think everybody's having a good time, legitimately.
The spring break season typically lasts until about mid-April here in Florida, so we can expect beaches to stay busy for a little while longer still. We can also expect law enforcement across the state to remain on high alert. Mike?
Yeah, what a difference that makes. Totally different scene. People were really enjoying themselves. You look at some of those viral videos and you're like, are people really having fun here, or is it just mass chaos?
It is mass chaos, and maybe chaos is fun for some people. I don't know. I'm not one of those people. The families around me here certainly aren't. Those are large crowds. We're talking 10,000 people, like the sheriff mentioned, 8,000 to 10,000 people. It can get really rowdy really quick. Here, it's families. You just saw those kids run by a little bit ago, so very nice crowd.
Yeah, very, very nice. Amy Gallo, thanks so much for joining us tonight out in Cocoa Beach, Florida. We always appreciate it here on Live Now from Fox. All right, we are going to take a 2-minute break. Before we do, President Trump on the move once again. We will be taking some of these shots as we see the president come in just moments. Before we go, a beautiful live look at the Capitol. And when we come back, we'll talk all about mass chaos that continues between Democrats and Republicans. More on that next. And welcome back to Live Now from Fox, everyone. I'm your host, Mike Page. Always great to be with you on this Friday evening edition. Coming up in just moments, my colleague Austin Westfall will be with you for several more hours, breaking down day's biggest top stories and headlines. And we are keeping an eye on President Trump on the move. We just saw him speak in Miami. We'll play that out for you a little bit later here as well. But next up, we want to go out to Capitol Hill, where the showdown continues between Democrats and Republicans, talking about DHS funding. Earlier today, Speaker Mike Johnson was fuming at Democrats. Listen in.
A very fruitful, almost 2-hour conference call with all the House Republicans, and we have a united group. Let me just be completely unequivocal and put this out here in the open and in the beginning here to make clear the Republicans are not going to be any part of any effort to reopen our borders or to stop immigration enforcement. We are going to deport dangerous criminal illegal aliens because it is a basic function of the government. The Democrats fundamentally disagree. The Senate Democrats have hoisted upon this appropriations process their radical, crazy agenda. We call it crazy because that's what it is. They want to reopen the borders and they want to stop the deportation of dangerous criminal illegal aliens. We have to do these basic functions of government. We have to fund them in order to do them. In the last several days, we have recent examples of dangerous criminals in this country killing innocent Americans. We had an 18-year-old college student in Chicago, a young lady who was shot in the back by a dangerous criminal who had been released in that sanctuary city and first released at the border under Joe Biden. They opened the border wide for 4 years. Just yesterday, or in the last 36 hours or so, an 83-year-old man's pushed onto the subway tracks and run over by a dangerous criminal illegal alien. This has to stop. The Republicans are not going to be a party to this. They have taken hostage the funding processes of government so that they can impose their radical agenda on the American people, and we can't have any part of it. This gambit that was done last night is a joke. I'm quite convinced that it can't be that every Senate Republican read the language of this bill, and I'm going to just read you one excerpt of it because it's pretty alarming, and it says everything that you need to know in Section 4. This is on page 2 of the bill. This is an actual copy of the bill. That excerpt. It says, quote, "The contents printed under the headings of this bill, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Security Operations, under the heading of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and Protection, shall have no force or effect for purposes of this act, and amounts specified in the final bill under the subheading Border Security Operations and under the heading U.S. Customs and Border Protection and under the headings of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the Department of Homeland Security shall be zero." We're not doing that. And it is unconscionable to me that the Democrats would force some sort of negotiation at 3 o'clock in the morning and try to hoist this upon the American people and then get on their jets and go home for their holiday and pretend and think that we're going to go along with that. So we're going to do something different. We're going to do the responsible thing. Republicans are going to continue to govern and do the right thing morally, legally, and politically. We are going to take care of those who take care of us. The employees in the Department of Homeland Security have gone without funding and without paychecks for 42 days. It's the second longest shutdown in U.S. history, bested only by the longest shutdown in U.S. history that these same radical Democrats hoisted upon the government in the fall of last year. 42 days they've gone without pay. We've had, by some estimates, close to 500 TSA agents who have resigned from their jobs, and who could blame them? They've gone half the fiscal year without a regular paycheck. We can't ask that of anyone. And the lines around the airlines and at the airports have been wrapped around the buildings because of all this turmoil. We are very grateful to have a strong commander-in-chief in the White House who has taken real leadership. President Trump has already ordered by executive order that TSA agents will be paid, and that machinery is in process right now. The Office of Management and Budget is working through that to make sure that that happens, and we will reduce the lines and the waits at the airlines, and we'll make sure that those who are protecting us are paid. But what we are going to present and what we're going to vote on this floor, our Rules Committee is working through this right now. We're going to put a clean, simple, continuing resolution that will go until May 22nd. It's just a number of weeks, to allow for all those who sacrificially serve the country and protect other Americans. All these agencies, 10 agencies under the Department of Homeland Security, will continue at their current funding levels to make sure that they are protected. We're going to send that over to the Senate, and we hope that they'll accept that. They can do it in record time just like that with the unanimous consent. They could do that as early as Monday. In the meantime, TSA will be paid. We will have done our jobs, and we will protect the homeland, because that is the most basic responsibility of the Congress, is to protect the American people. We're not playing political games on this. We encourage some of our Democrats, hopefully we'll have some of our Democrats in the House who go along with this and stop the pain that's being forced upon these people. The reason that we can't accept this ridiculousness, okay, is because we're not going to risk not funding the agencies that keep the American people safe. The Department of Homeland Security is the third largest department in the federal government. It has 10 agencies beneath it. It's not just TSA, it's also FEMA, the Coast Guard, all these agencies that keep us safe. We must fund them. This is not a game. Republicans will do the responsible and honorable thing, and Democrats will continue to play politics.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, Mr. Speaker. you and John Thune are not on the same page. You came out and criticized Democrats. He was the engineer behind this. Why are you guys not on the same page? And are you not extending the shutdown? If you were to accept what the Senate had passed, this could end tonight and the TSA lines would shrink.
I wouldn't call John Thune the engineer of this. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate have forced this upon the Senate. I have to protect the House. Let me answer the question, Chad. I have to protect the House. And I have to protect the American people. That's our responsibility. Our colleagues on this side understand this is not a game. We are not playing their games. These people want open borders, and they want criminal, illegal aliens in the country. They do not want to enforce the law. They want to literally defund. You just read it in the bill here. They want to give $0 to enforcing federal immigration laws and keeping the border secure. That was the biggest issue in the election of 2024, the wide open border that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris hoisted upon the country. And 20 million, by some estimates, 20 million dangerous, criminal, illegal aliens included in that number came over the border. We have terrorists in our country. We have obviously murderers. They're putting it on display. And then these big blue cities that have sanctuary city policies, they're releasing these people onto the streets. They released them over the border when they came over under the Biden years. And that is the turmoil that we're facing right now, the very serious threats to the homeland and everybody. It's not just long lines at the airport. It is the danger and safety of everyone. We'll talk more after this is passed. We'll get it done.
Has the president endorsed this plan? Has the president endorsed this plan, Mr. Speaker? Has the president endorsed
I spoke to the president a few moments ago. He understands exactly what we're doing and why, and he supports it. Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
The American people are just sick and tired of every one of you, both Republicans and Democrats, come to this podium and blame the other side. People have been standing in lines 3, 4, 5 hours at a time. There's TSA workers that are selling their plasma. At what point is a leader on either side going to stand up and say, we have a path forward that everyone will agree to? This vote today will extend the shutdown under any circumstance.
No, it won't. No, it won't.
And it
Thank you. Let me answer the question. I'm glad you brought it up. The House Republicans have now voted that today will be the 4th time to fund the Homeland Security. This is not party blame game. This is a record. You can hold up the record. Look at the Democrats. They're voting over and over. Yesterday afternoon, we gave them a chance to fund Homeland Security. You know how many House Democrats voted yes? 4 of them. They want to use people as pawns. People are not pawns. These are workers who are sacrificially serving the country, many of them without pay, to make sure that you and your families are safe. And we're done with it. This is not a political blame game. This is one party doing the job and getting the government funded and another that's using people as pawns. We're not going to do that. Listen, we're going to send it over there, and you can see what they do. If this is not USEED and they don't do it, the president has shown leadership. He's going to fund TSA agents. We'll get that covered. But we have the rest of the country to take care of. We're not asking them to do anything heroic. These aren't partisan games. We're not adding bells and whistles to this. It is a clean continuation of funding to make sure that the most basic responsibility of government is fulfilled. And we'll see how that goes and see what we do.
Speaker Johnson taking questions on a busy Friday on Capitol Hill. A live look at the Capitol just past 8 p.m. in D.C. Cami Mondo of Deseret News saying this: the House will reconvene at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and adjourn. They will then reconvene at 9:30 Eastern Time to debate the rule for their 60-day continued resolution. Final vote will be around 10:30 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time on the rule, and then it'll automatically pass if the CR is adopted. So, a long night in store in the nation's capital. Let's hit our first break of the hour. Be right back. You're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. We are getting some breaking news relating to the war in the Middle East. Few outlets reporting this, saying an Iranian missile struck the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia on Friday, wounding multiple U.S. service members and damaging several U.S. refueling aircraft. This is something that we're going to continue to track as the night goes on. We don't have any specific numbers on casualties or military hardware that may have been struck in this event. We do have standing by retired Marine Intelligence Officer, national security analyst, and the host of the Strat podcast, Hal Kempfer. Hal, are you familiar with Prince Sultan Air Base?
I am familiar with PSAP. Yes. Yeah.
You know,
it's been a base. I mean, it's a base we've used for a long period of time. There was a period of time we weren't using it. It was a couple years after 9/11. We pulled, because of concerns about security, we pulled a lot of our stuff out of there. But it's a very capable, very robust air base. We've used it for many, many years, and it's one of those things that the Saudis and us work collaboratively on very well. And it's also always been considered a base that was far enough back that, you know, it was considered more secure or safe. Obviously, that threat assessment has changed.
Dave Brown with the Wall Street Journal does have some numbers. He says 10 U.S. service members wounded, 2 of them seriously. Again, we'll wait for more reporting to give us a little more clarity on what might have happened here. But again, Hal, this is a reminder that there's a lot of U.S. Air defense systems in the region, but these things don't work perfectly.
You know, right now we're intercepting over 90% of the stuff that comes in, but that means 10% gets in. And, you know, if they fire a lot of, fire 100 ballistic missiles, that means 10 of them are going to hit something. And of course, in this case, at least one got through, hit PSAP. What I understand was there were KC-135s, which are big refueling aircraft. If you recall, there was a catastrophic event with a KC-135 that was flying over, I believe it was Iraq, over Western Iraq not too long ago. But they're workhorses. That's what keeps a lot of our planes, our strike aircraft in the air, allows for these longer, deep strikes into places like eastern Iran or southern Iran if it's coming down from the north. And so they're tremendously valuable assets. That's something we do. I think we do that better. Well, I know we do that better than any place else in the world in terms of in-flight refueling. But according to some reports, there were about 5 of them that were on the tarmac or on the airfield exposed when the strike came in. From what I understand, and it's all kind of slowly eking out. We haven't had any confirmation on this. At least one of the aircraft was damaged. I don't know if it was destroyed, but I am not surprised that we would have casualties in those numbers. And frankly, even one of those big ballistic missiles coming in, if it hits close, can have some pretty significant impact. I would point to what happened up in Kuwait as an example of what can happen when one of those warheads strikes in proximity of where our troops are.
We'll have to look for official word from the U.S. military as the night goes on. We did hear from Secretary Rubio earlier today as this war is now entering its 5th week. Secretary Rubio saying that the U.S. can achieve its objectives in Iran without the use of any ground troops. He also says that he expects that the U.S.'s operation will conclude in a matter of weeks. He also said the recent deployment of thousands more troops to the region were intended to give President Trump more options. Hal, what's the importance of having maximum optionality in a fight like this?
Well, it keeps if you get to maneuver warfare, it keeps your enemy always guessing as to what you are. And if you go back to, the philosophy of Sun Tzu, which goes about 2,500 years ago, the goal is to actually defeat your enemy without having to fight them. And by having certain capabilities present, it makes it very difficult, sometimes virtually impossible for them to anticipate where you're going to strike next. And that's something that we take advantage of. One thing we do is we try to move faster and quicker through a decision-making cycle called the observation, orientation, decision, action cycle, or OODA loop. And that's something we're always trying to move faster, quicker, better in terms of what we're doing. So we have our intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance assets constantly looking at what they're doing, working with the Israelis and other allies to figure out what is not only just what's happening on the ground, but what is the thinking process of the Iranian military leaders and leadership as a whole. and try to keep them off guard. And right now, if I was in Tehran, I would be wondering, with 10,000 troops coming in, airborne troops, which opens up a variety of possibilities of where they could be deployed. You got 2 Marine Expeditionary Units that will be on hand. And I'm looking at these islands in the Strait of Hormuz. I'm looking at Kark Island. I'm looking at all this exposed coastline. And I've got to be asking myself, where will the Americans hit next? So what's interesting is that Secretary Rubio is saying that we may not be using putting boots on the ground in order to achieve our objectives, but it is the threat of boots on the ground. And if you go back to 1999 in the Balkans, that's the one time that we say when we're dealing with Serbia, we say that we actually caused regime change with just air power. Now, that wasn't quick regime change. I think it was regime change, and then like a year and a half later, after everything had stopped, that's when the regime actually changed. So it wasn't a quick sequence sort of thing. But what everyone will point out is, if it wasn't for the threat of ground forces, the threat of boots on the ground, which basically eventually became peacekeeping boots on the ground, if it wasn't for that, would there have been enough pressure to cause that regime to change? And I think that's what we're doing, is we're putting the threat of boots on the ground to back up the power that we're using through air and a variety of other means to basically make that impression and change their thinking, saying, yeah, they're not here now, but they could be doing things. And specifically, I point to raids, and I look at different types of raids that could be done. That could be very, very destabilizing with a autocratic government like the regime in Iran.
President Trump has been wrestling with the stock market, which has been falling week by week. U.S. stocks closed out their worst week since the war began this week, and it was also the 5th losing week in a row. How much can domestic economic pains actually impact what we will eventually see on the battlefield?
Basically, I'm looking at what's happening domestically with gas prices, and I'm looking at the stock market and a couple of other measures out there. And I would say that has a huge impact, particularly on this White House. You got to remember, this White House basically is full of businessmen. There's a lot of folks there who have a business background. And so they look at the numbers, they look at what's going on, they look at the impact of the war based on what it's doing with the economy. And they are making decisions on which way to go, which is interesting. And one of the things, I'll give you an example, one of the little things, initially in the war, when the air war was kicking off, we were hitting them, but we're hitting them with some very expensive weapon systems that were making a huge impact. And we're still hitting them with some weapons that are making a huge impact, but we're using less expensive weapons to do that. Now, part of that is because we've got air dominance in certain areas, so we can get in closer and do things with certain weapons that we couldn't do before. But it's making it, I know this sounds strange, but it makes it more cost-effective war. And I think they're looking very closely at the cost of the war, particularly if you're shooting at a drone that's, costs $35,000 with a air defense missile that costs $2 million. You start looking at the numbers over time.
Before we go, I want to read you one piece of reporting from the Associated Press.
Yes, this was a different
Russia's
one.
Emergencies Ministry recently delivered
this
a
was
batch
in
of
central
medicines to
Israel.
Iran.
A few hours ago in central Israel, there was a different fatal attack, which was an Iranian missile attack. You can see here, carrying a cluster bomb warhead, says Manny Fabian of Times of Israel. It struck central Israel, and it killed a man in his 60s who was not in a bomb shelter, and another submunition hit a residential building and lightly wounded 2 men in their 50s. So that's 2 fatal attacks in the last, it looks like 12 hours or so in Israel. One a Hezbollah rocket attack, one an Iranian missile attack. I don't know why that person was not in a shelter. That I don't know. All right, really quick here. What I'm going to do, hang on, is check for updates. So what I have is I have some food here. So I don't have to make the food. In a little bit I'm gonna take a little break and just eat something. But I don't have to make the food. So that's helpful. And we're going to keep streaming. OSINT Technical posted a video that purports to show a missile hitting the ground in Bahrain. So I'm going to post a link to that in the chat. Now, Faytux is saying, you know, we told you, we were talking about this earlier, how after, I told you how we read you this statement from the Revolutionary Guard in Iran threatening to hit industrial sites in response to what they said was Israel and the U.S. targeting industrial sites today in Iran, including steel facilities. And Faytux News posted that maybe right now we're seeing Iran trying to attack industrial sites. Faytux News says there are some indications that the industrial site in Al-Hid, Bahrain has been targeted. Other claims say that the Bapco refinery complex has been struck, trying to confirm, says Faytux News. So maybe these missile attacks are being directed as industrial sites as Iran threatened to do. I'm also, this is not confirmed. I've seen some unconfirmed reports online about some incident clashes between Israeli forces in Lebanon and local forces, maybe Hezbollah, but I'm not sure. If that's legit, we'll have to see. Regularly, it does happen sometimes that if there's like a security incident involving Israeli troops, the Israeli media will be told not to report about it, and then until the government says something about it. So we may not find out about that for a little while. DJN says it's dodgy how UAE seems to have stopped all the videos coming out. I very rarely see photos or videos from the UAE or Bahrain, even when they announce attacks afterwards. Sometimes damaging and fatal attacks. You just don't, at least I don't, and I look at a lot of sources, I don't see anything from these places a lot of the time. So they seem to keep a pretty tight rein on that stuff getting out. Hold on a second here. One of the viewers, LGA, said they had heard that aircraft landings have stopped in Saudi Arabia. I'll have to check. I mean, that kind of stuff can happen when there's like some kind of attack going on or threat of attack. Sometimes you can have the airports affected. So hold on. Hold on. Saudi Arabia. I don't know. I'd have to go to one of the airports and see. What is it local time there anyway? It's probably late there. Well, that plane just took off from Riyadh. Planes are taking off from Riyadh, I can tell you that, because I just saw it. How about Jeddah? Planes are taking off from Jeddah. That one just took off. That one's coming into land. I mean, there may be certain airports in Saudi Arabia that are being impacted. I don't know. But I'm checking a bunch right now, and I don't know. I'm not going to bother looking around, but I'll keep an eye on things. I'll wait. If I hear anything about big disruptions, if I hear anything, I'll let you know. Hey, a quick thank you to, give me a moment here. Thank you so much to, hang on. Mike from Jersey, thank you. Thank you so much, Tie Shoes. Thank you very much, Tie Shoes, for your support. Hey, LAR NCM gave 10 more memberships. So nice of LAR NCM. Make sure you thank LAR. Hang on a moment here. Hang on. Make sure you thank LAR or somebody else if they've given you a membership or a gift subscription. Also, Josh Barnes, thank you so much. Temi Dank, thanks for the memberships, Temi. The Steak Pie, thank you so much. XX Fallen XX, thanks for being a member. Thanks, Lucchini AP, for your support. Thank you. Give me a moment here. Also, Jesus UCSB. Thanks, Jesus, for your support. Jennifer Lee, thank you so much, Jennifer Lee. Really appreciate it. Also, Kopan Electron from Turkey. Thank you so much. Who says Bushehr is one of 2 active nuclear power plants in the entire Middle East? They are distinct from nuclear facilities as they contain no reactor cores capable of leading to Chernobyl-scale disasters. Is that true? I'll have to check that myself. Thank you also, Dawn0109. Thank you, Dawn. I just looked up Gemini AI said in Bushehr has 1 active unit, but Baraka in the UAE has 4 active units. But it's maybe Baraka in the UAE and Bushehr they're the 2 plants, but Baraka has 4 active units at the plant in the UAE. Without getting into the details, without doing a whole research project here, Gemini AI said the design at Bushehr in Iran and Baraka power plant in UAE, nuclear power plants, use a different design than Chernobyl. Also, they have massive steel reinforced. Also, Bushehr has a massive steel reinforced concrete dome, and Chernobyl had no containment building. For what it's worth, Gemini AI says there's a risk that a external strike could crack the containment at one of these facilities, like Bushehr. Anyways, Bushehr is the nuclear power plant in Iran, and Iran has claimed that there's been a projectile that has hit near it 3 times in the last 10 days. But I don't want to, so I'm just giving you, I know AI can sometimes make mistakes, so I'm just giving you a general quick summary of an AI response to that comment. I don't want to get really into it in the details. I would encourage you, if you want to know the details between the differences between Bushehr and other nuclear power plants, please do some research on it. Thank you, Copon Electron, for bringing up the topic. Also, Slugger and RSE for being members. I need about maybe 3 minutes. Flight Radar 24 says flights are on the move again at DC area airports after controllers have returned to the Potomac Tracon facility following an earlier strong chemical smell. Let's see if I can get my graphic up here. Probably about 2 minutes. I need about 2 minutes, okay? Give me 2 minutes. I'm coming right back. Just 2 minutes.
7% below the all-time high that it reached in January. The Dow, also pictured here, reaching its, it dropped 1.7%, I should say. The NASDAQ composite sank 2.1%. The markets continuing to feel the impacts of the fighting in the Middle East. Economist Mike Walden here with me. Mike, for weeks we've been wondering if this war would result in a short shock or a longer economic threat. What does today's sell-off tell you about the type of fear that Wall Street is feeling?
Well, background a little bit on stock market investing. There are two types of investors. There's the buy and hold investor who buys stocks and holds them for a long run. That person
Thank you for your patience.
Changing and kind of buying or selling.
So in a couple minutes, I'm going to eat a little food. It's here. I don't have to make it.
Stock market and they try to forecast
let me see what's going on.
And
we're going to continue our stream.
Or to sell.
What is this? Unconfirmed reports of, again, some kind of incident between the Israeli military and Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. I'm seeing some unconfirmed reports online. I've seen some unconfirmed reports claiming that Israeli helicopters are evacuating wounded soldiers, which could be the case. These are just unconfirmed reports. Thank you, Gustavo, for watching from Brazil. So we'll have to see what we hear about that. By the way, we didn't even talk about this. We didn't even talk about how there are reports that the Wall Street Journal says that President Trump is considering, the Pentagon is considering sending up to 10,000 additional ground troops to the Middle East. This would be in addition to the roughly 5,000 Marines and thousands of paratroopers who have already been ordered there. But again, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Trump is considering, the Pentagon is considering, so I assume it's President Trump's the commander-in-chief, so it's ultimately up to him, whether to send around 10,000 more ground troops in the Middle East, to the ones, in addition to the ones already going. All right, here's what I'm going to do. Here is what I need to do. Here is what I need to do. Because we're going to keep streaming tonight. Okay, so I'm going to take a few minutes and eat a little bit, and then I'm going to come back, obviously. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to eat right here, but off camera. And I'll leave the stream up And I'll be keeping an eye on everything. And if there's something super urgent, I can just come on the air and stop eating. But I'm just going to eat a bit right now, and then I'll come back and do more coverage, okay? So before I do that, really quick, thank you to Miss Curvy. Thank you, Miss Curvy Motivational Living, who thinks something very bad is going to happen. I hope not. And KHHM for being a member. Mela Metez, thank you. Yeah, I post about the Tiger Woods thing on my X account, Mela Metez, thank you. Maybe we can mention that briefly when I come back. Ginal Lapointe, thank you. RSE, thank you. And also our moderators. I appreciate them all moderating tonight. Ruth has been over there. Ruth and Roberts May Queen and Leslie Ladyhawk over there on YouTube have been moderating. Thank you. Appreciate it. Linda Belk, Larry Misha over on X. Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson, Andrea Holder over on Facebook. Appreciate you moderating over there on Twitch. Appreciate all of our mods. Thank you. Like Big Ball of Yarn, Idaho Star, Matthew Kohai 3, and Surly Dev. Also, thanks to Shrocky for subscribing on Twitch. So let me just eat a little food here, and then I'm going to come back and we'll continue our coverage. Steve is... I'll say it's a meal break, but it's not. It shouldn't be as long as my normal meal break. How about Steve is eating a snack? He will be back shortly. I'll see. Taking a meal break, but again, it should be not too long. So bear with me. We will definitely have a bunch more coverage right after I eat. Okay. I will put the sound on, and I'll be keeping an eye on everything. Steve is taking a meal break. He will be back shortly. How about that? All right, so bear with me. I'm going to eat a little bit. I'm coming right back after I eat.
is a joke. I'm quite convinced that it can't be that every Senate Republican read the language of this bill.
But the Senate voted to end the DHS stalemate at 2:19 a.m.
The bill's amended as passed.
Democrats claim victory, scoring a bill which only funded parts of DHS.
Throughout it all, Senate Democrats stood united, no wavering, no backing down. We held the line.
However, Democrats never secured legislative reforms at ICE.
Democrats didn't actually want a solution. They wanted an issue. Politics over policy.
Many House Democrats embrace the Senate plan, but it's not exactly what they wanted. Why are many Democrats on board with this if it lacks that legislative fix that you argued for?
So we are prepared to support it while continuing to fight on behalf of the American people to get ICE under control.
But House Republicans thwarted the Senate's jam job, which told the House, take it or leave it.
This is what we do every time. They jam you up against a vacation, Christmas, now it's Easter, and then they expect you to pass a bunch of garbage.
The House Speaker seething at the Senate.
You and John Thune are not on the same page. And are you not extending the shutdown if you were to accept what the Senate had passed?
I wouldn't call John Thune the engineer of this. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate have forced this upon the Senate. I have to protect the House. Let me answer the question, Chad.
House Republicans pushing a 2-month interim spending bill funding everything at DHS. That puts the Republican House and the Republican Senate at odds. On Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
8:45 in the nation's capital. You saw there a little bit of House Democrats taking to the microphone earlier today, speaking on the DHS fight. Let's watch.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is day 42 of the Trump Republican shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. Republicans have decided for weeks now to force TSA agents to work without pay, inconvenience millions of Americans, and create chaos at airports all across the country. This could end and should end today. There is a bipartisan bill that has been sent over from the Senate that would reopen the non-controversial parts of the Department of Homeland Security, make sure TSA agents are paid, and end the chaos at airports throughout the nation. The bipartisan bill sent over by the Senate has been supported by every single Democrat and every single Republican as it made its way over to the House of Representatives. House Democrats are prepared to support the bill to end the Trump Republican shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. Make sure TSA agents are paid. Stand up for FEMA and for the Coast Guard and for our cybersecurity professionals. And stop inconveniencing Americans, which is being intentionally done by Donald Trump and House Republican extremists. Why is this happening? Many Americans are asking. It's because House Republicans have decided that they would rather inconvenience you, create chaos for you and for your families, so that they can continue to jam their extreme right-wing ideology down the throats of the American people. So they can continue to spend billions of dollars for ICE to brutalize and kill American citizens, as we've seen horrifically in the case of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy. Our views on immigration enforcement are the views of the American people. Immigration enforcement should focus on violent felons who are in this country illegally, not target law-abiding immigrant families or brutalize and in some cases kill American citizens. Your taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for you and for your family, and that's what Democrats are going to continue to fight to accomplish. The only thing standing right now between the chaos that is taking place at airports all across the country and the American people and making sure you are no longer inconvenienced are House Republicans. That's the only thing standing. Right now, as we approach Easter and Passover, with chaos breaking out all over the country, TSA agents being forced to work without pay week after week after week. And now we have this bipartisan bill sent over by the Senate that House Democrats are prepared to support. If that bill is brought to the floor today, it will pass. And the Trump Republican DHS shutdown will be over. But unfortunately, MAGA extremists in the House of Representatives continue to inflict pain on the American people. It's now my honor to yield to the House Democratic Whip, my good friend and colleague from the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Catherine Clark.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leader, and good afternoon, everyone. There's no reason for TSA to be shut down. There's no reason for FEMA and our Coast Guard to still be unfunded. There's no reason for travelers to be waiting in absurdly long lines. We could have voted today, yesterday, last week, last month to open every part of Department of Homeland Security that that this bill is a joke. That's another classic we can add to their lines about how they feel about the American people and what they are going through right now. We can add it to affordability is a hoax. Donald Trump on gas prices going up $1 a gallon. When they rise, they rise. I will declare no new wars if elected president. And the impact of all of this on consumers is the last of our concerns. None of this is a joke. All of this has real-world consequences for American families. And the same day that they're refusing to fund our cybersecurity, they learned that Iran has hacked the director of the FBI. Republicans won't fund TSA or FEMA or the Coast Guard unless we green-light more terror in our communities. That's what they care about. That's more important to them than anything else. Funding ICE and the paramilitary force that they have turned into. So if you've ever doubted for a moment how craven the House Republicans really are, today you have your answer. And with that, I will turn it over to our amazing House Chairman, our friend and colleague, Pete Aguilar.
Thanks, Whip Clark. Thank you, Leader Jeffries. House Democrats have been clear from the start. We must pay TSA, Coast Guard, and FEMA and other public safety agencies while we negotiate common sense reforms for ICE. Weeks ago, we put forward legislation that would do just that and outlined a list of changes that we knew we wanted to see at ICE to make our communities safer. Republicans, Democrats held firm in our position and we never gave in. And as a result, you saw early this morning, Senate Republicans agreed with our approach. But now Speaker Johnson is calling this bipartisan agreement a joke, simply because it doesn't give more money to Trump's out-of-control ICE agency. Think about it. After witnessing the chaos at the airports, after hearing about TSA agents quitting or picking up second jobs or sleeping in their cars, this is the response that Mike Johnson has. This isn't a joke, as the whip said. These are real people's lives. And there's only one reason, one real solution to end this shutdown, and that's passing this bipartisan DHS funding package today. Republicans cannot continue to hold funding for airport security, disaster assistance, and response for the Coast Guard hostage because they want an out-of-control ICE that brutalizes our communities, detains children, and kills U.S. citizens. Republicans know they need Democratic votes in order to pass this. They can't keep ignoring our calls to rein in ICE. The American people elected us to make their lives better, not worse. We have the opportunity to do that now. And with this bipartisan bill, we urge our Republican colleagues to do the right thing and put this bill on the floor.
Our message to Mike Johnson and House Republicans is clear. Paying TSA agents, reopening the Department of Homeland Security, ending the chaos, and stopping the inconvenience for millions of Americans all across the country is no joking matter. It is serious. You should take your responsibilities serious. Bring this bipartisan bill to the floor today so we can end the nonsense, end the chaos, and actually start doing the type of things that the American people want us to focus on, which is making their life more affordable in an environment where Donald Trump and Republicans have made life more expensive in the United States of America. Questions?
What is your position on the Republican bill that trying to pass as soon as tonight, which is a 60-day continuing resolution?
Our position remains the same. There is a bipartisan bill that every single senator, Democrats and Republicans, have supported that has the votes to pass today to reopen the Department of Homeland Security, to pay TSA agents, and to end the chaos at airports all across the country that Republicans have been inflicting on the American people for weeks. That's the legislation that should be brought to the floor.
Peter Jeffries, in the past 41 days, have you had a conversation with Speaker Johnson at all about the bipartisan deal, which you get broken on this side? And you said that the House Democrats would support this bipartisan bill that came out of the Senate, but Republicans already teed up a reconciliation bill that would fully fund ICE. Leader Thune said the ship has sailed for reforms talk. Why would you guys support that if it would be antithetical to your mission?
The ship has not sailed as it relates to making sure that there are dramatic changes that are brought about to ICE that are bold, meaningful, comprehensive, and transformative. Why do we know that? Because we've heard the ship has sailed from Republicans throughout the last 15 months. We were told the ship has sailed on releasing the Epstein files. Donald Trump said last April or May, it's over. But House Democrats stayed on the case. It's not over. We passed legislation that has forced them to date to release 3 million documents, and we're going to continue to stay on the case. We were told throughout the 43-day Trump Republican government shutdown that our demand to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits under terms that made sense for working class families was dead on arrival, and that it would never happen in the House of Representatives. Guess what? In January, it happened in the House of Representatives. And we were joined by 17 Republicans, and every single House Democrat passed a 3-year straightforward extension to the Affordable Care Act tax credits. It's part of our effort to protect the health care of more than 20 million Americans. We can give you example after example after example where the ship had allegedly sailed with respect to our efforts to fight to make life better for the American people. And our position remains the same. We continue to be in every single fight on behalf of the American people until we win that fight.
If Speaker Johnson does not put this legislation on the bipartisan legislation for the Senate on the floor tonight, how will
There are a variety of different legislative vehicles available to us. I'll yield to Catherine. We, of course, have been successful in this Congress over the last few months in advancing 3 different discharge petitions forcing up or down votes on legislation demanded by the American people, including most recently on extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. We have a discharge petition that is live right now. All we need are a handful of House Republicans to join us, and we can force an up or down vote to end this Republican-Trump shutdown of TSA, of the Coast Guard, of FEMA, and of our cybersecurity professionals. And we will pursue every available avenue to us to get something done bipartisan. But what's in front of us right now is a bipartisan bill sent over from the Senate, passed unanimously. All 100 senators supporting this bipartisan bill. And if it's brought to the floor today, it will pass. And we can end the nightmare that Donald Trump and Republicans are inflicting upon the American people at airports all across the country in advance of Easter and Passover. Yeah.
As Leader Jeffries said, we have a discharge petition that has been active and live. And what they are saying is not only rejecting the bipartisan bill, but they know this is a continuation of the shutdown because the Senate is gone. The Senate is gone. So they know fully well what they're doing. They're saying we want the status quo, that we are so eager to keep ICE going exactly as they're operating in their reckless and unlawful and violent way. That's our priority over that of the American people. And the other portions that this bipartisan bill would have funded are important to the security of our country. And it's beyond TSA workers who should never have had to go without a single paycheck. But what about our cybersecurity experts? What about the Coast Guard? What about those people who work in our ports and our customs? What about FEMA that this administration has been dismantling and now wants to continue to allow to be unfunded? I mean, it is hard to take in the level of how far House Republicans have come to be removed from the people who sent them here to govern on their behalf. It is such a betrayal of their own voters and of the American people in total.
B.
What impact do you think this will have on your message to voters?
It's incredible to me that Republicans are considering trying to jam part 2 of the one big ugly bill down the throats of the American people. Let's review again what part 1 was all about. In part 1 of the Republican one big ugly bill, they ripped away Medicaid from 14 million Americans, with the largest cut to Medicaid, almost $1 trillion in American history. At the same period of time, in part 1 of the one big ugly bill, Republicans enacted a $186 billion cut to nutritional assistance. These extremists literally have ripped food out of the mouths of hungry children, seniors, and veterans. And why did they do that? At least 2 reasons. To provide massive tax breaks to their billionaire Republican donors, and then to create a $75 billion slush fund. That's right, America. Republicans, in their one big ugly bill, created a $75 billion slush fund so that taxpayer dollars could be used to brutalize and kill American citizens. That's what Democrats object to, because we're fighting for working families, for everyday Americans, and for middle-class America. The notion that these extremists would try to jam a second so-called budget reconciliation bill, part 2 of the one big ugly bill, down the throats of the American people. Why would they do it? To continue ICE brutality and at the same time provide up to $200 billion to support Donald Trump's reckless war of choice in the Middle East. Republicans would rather unleash ICE brutality and drop bombs by spending billions of dollars a day in the Middle East than actually make life more affordable for the American people in an environment where this country is far too expensive. The cost of living is far too high as a result of failed Republican policies, and now they're doubling and tripling down on it. I can say without reservation that the one big ugly bill, part 2, spending billions of taxpayer dollars, perhaps to rip health care away some more from the American people, while funding this reckless war of choice and continuing to unleash ICE brutality of the American people, will not get a single Democratic vote.
My question is, you had said multiple times from this book that you wanted to see legislative fix for ICE. The bill that came over from the Senate lacks that. Why are many Democrats on board with this if it lacks that legislative fix that you argue for?
We've been very clear that taxpayer dollars should be spent to make life more affordable for the American people. We want ICE to be compelled to conduct itself like every other cop, police officer, and law enforcement agency in the country. Immigration enforcement in America should be fair, just, and humane. That's not what's happening right now. And the American people know that ICE is out of control, and they're demanding changes that are bold, transformative, and meaningful, while at the same time anchored in common sense. Now, this bill that has been sent over from the Senate in a bipartisan way that House Democrats are ready to embrace separates out ICE funding and separates out funding for the Trump Republican violent mass deportation machine. So we are prepared to support it while continuing to fight on behalf of the American people to get ICE under control. That's why it's not that complicated. It's because Senate Republicans have at least recognized that it's time for them to stop holding TSA agents and the American people hostage. Pete?
I agree with what the leader says. I think it's incredibly unfortunate, the position that Senate Republicans have waited this long to understand what House Democrats have said, which is we want a bipartisan solution. Now, the policies that the leader and Senator Schumer sent over are incredibly important, and we don't believe that ICE should get funding until we achieve those policy changes. Neither of that happens here. ICE doesn't get its funding, and the policy changes we will continue to discuss and debate. But the important thing for the American people is TSA will get funded, FEMA will get funded, Coast Guard will get funded, individuals who work for the federal government will be held harmless, which has been our position for weeks. We've stood at this podium and we've said, this is what we want. We want to isolate and have a discussion about ICE and Border Patrol. We want to ensure that their bad actions do not receive more money so they can't brutalize our communities. And we want them, above all else, to have rules, just like our local police officers, just like our local police agencies do. That's what this has been about. And then we have a bipartisan agreement, not just bipartisan, a unanimous agreement, where 100 senators were given an opportunity to object and not a single one objected. That's the type of solution that we believe we can gravitate around. And unfortunately, Mike Johnson doesn't believe that that's enough of a solution because he wants more brutality in our communities.
Do you believe that Mike Johnson is not having his Republicans vote on this bill because he wants the election message to be
You know, MAGA Mike Johnson is really struggling right now. They have a new message every week. But you know what also is happening? Republicans have been losing elections for the last 15 consecutive months, over and over and over again, including in deep red places like Texas, Louisiana, and most recently in Florida. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump will now be represented at Mar-a-Lago by a Democrat in a district that he previously won by double digits. Make no mistake, Republicans are falling apart. When are they going to learn their lesson that the American people are rejecting their extremism and actually want Congress to focus on making life better for everyday Americans? That's what Democrats are continuing to do. We're fighting to lower the high cost of living, to fix our broken healthcare system, to clean up corruption, to get ICE under control, to end the chaos at airports, to stop this reckless war of choice, and to actually focus on the things that matter. The American people know Republican priorities have nothing to do with making their life better, and everything to do with jamming their extreme and radical right-wing ideology down the throats of the American people. And Exhibit A today is the fact that House Republicans are rejecting a bipartisan bill supported by 53 Republican senators that would end the chaos at the airports, pay TSA, and stop inconveniencing millions of Americans. Thank you.
Okay, House Dems taking questions on DHS funding. We'll let you know as the weekend progresses what comes of this effort to dig out of what has now turned into another weeks-long partial government shutdown. We do expect the House will reconvene tonight. They're not done with their business for the evening, 9:30 Eastern time, so sometime in the next 20 minutes or so, we expect that we might see this camera pop back on and we might see a little more debate on the House floor. Time for us here at Live Now to take a quick commercial break, a live look at the Seattle skyline and the Space Needle 610 on the West Coast. We'll be right back. For quite some time, the NBA has been made up of 30 teams, and now they're looking at the idea of expanding it to 32 teams. Take a look. The NBA is officially looking at expanding to Seattle and Las Vegas. Commissioner Adam Silver says he wants the league to know by the end of this year if expansion will in fact happen. Again, they're eyeballing Las Vegas and Seattle for this effort. Curtis Crabtree is here. He covers sports for Fox 13 in Seattle. And then Curtis, I know, is taking a break from covering the Mariners to join us here. We appreciate you. So is it absolutely certain that if a team were to come back to Seattle, would they be called the Supersonics? Is that the expectation?
Yeah, I certainly believe so. About the only thing the city did right when the Sonics left in 2008 was make sure that there was a shared history with the team when it left for Oklahoma City. And that history is something that they can recapture if a new NBA team comes back to town. And whomever is going to be the one to do that would be absolutely silly to call it anything other than the Sonics. So that brand continues to hold pretty strong in the market. You continue to see green and gold everywhere throughout the last 20 years from time to time. And people have definitely waited for the chance for an NBA team to come around, which certainly got more real once Climate Pledge Arena opened. But it certainly seems now like we're one step away from that becoming reality again and the Sonics coming back to life here in Seattle.
A lot of people watching us right now might not be in tune with the NBA. Let's tell the story of the Seattle Supersonics. I mean, they were a fairly successful franchise, and then heartbreak struck in the 2000s. As you mentioned, the franchise moved to Oklahoma City. What does the franchise mean to the city, and what has it been like with this almost 2-decade now lull with no basketball team in Seattle?
Yeah, it was the first major professional sports franchise in Seattle. And so for 40 years, that was the thing that it had over the Mariners and the Seahawks, was that they were the first ones here, and they won a championship in 1979. And that continued to be the lone championship until the Seahawks won their first Super Bowl in 2013 for them, 4 major sports. So ultimately, that still remains a pretty big, feather in the cap of Sonics fans and basketball fans in town. There's been a ton of NBA players to come out of this market throughout the years. Even when the team hasn't been here around, guys like, Nate Robinson, Jamal Crawford had a long time in the NBA, terrific player during his stretch, not Aaron Gordon, but Paolo Banchero now with the Orlando Magic. It's been a hotbed for basketball throughout the years, and certainly the chance to have NBA basketball coming back to town would be a welcome one for a lot of people in this market, even if there is some sour feelings about the league over how the team left in 2008 and the kind of dangling the carrot in front of Seattle's face here for the last several years about expansion. That's still going to be something that I think a lot of basketball fans are going to be really looking forward to, assuming it gets across the finish line.
Being reported that the NBA wants about $7 to $10 billion for each team. Why is that so expensive? The Celtics just sold for $6 last year.
That's the one thing that makes me question whether it gets to the $10 billion number. I just don't know if it gets that high. That's the number the Lakers sold for, and it's hard to imagine that expansion teams in Seattle and Las Vegas is going to be at the same level as the Lakers. And as you mentioned, the Celtics sale was $6 billion and change here a year ago or so. It's hard for me to think it's going to be that much more significantly higher than that number. But that being said, if there's competition for the bids, that certainly can drive up the price a bit. So I know the Kraken ownership, led by Samantha Holloway, the daughter of former Celtics minority owner David Bonderman, is going to be at the table and is expected to submit a bid as part of the process here. I would imagine she's probably that group is probably the leader in the clubhouse for interest from the Seattle area, but we'll have to see how it all shakes out here over the coming months.
Is there a legitimate argument against expansion? I know some people are feeling iffy because the league has a tanking issue right now, and the last thing the NBA wants is to add 2 more teams that might be 2 more tanking teams. Is that something that's being thought about?
I think that was a big discussion from Adam Silver at his press conference the other day, was that notion. But I think that's something that the league has had to deal with regardless of the number of teams in it for a long time. Ultimately, the NBA is a league that is very top-heavy. You kind of have to have some stars to kind of lead your way, or you're going to be stuck in really struggling to compete against the top teams in the league. I've talked about this with several people out here. Team 30 on most nights is not going to have any chance of beating Team 1 in the NBA. Or like if you use the NHL as a corollary, like Team 32 could beat 1 on a given night. It's just a little bit, the talent disparity can be a little bit greater in some of those areas. So it is something they need to address, because you can't have, a third of your league not trying most seasons to be successful, and they have to create some incentives to make it where that's not quite as, significant a case year to year for that many teams to be struggling. And the load management thing certainly factors into it. You want to buy a ticket to go to a game to go see one of your star players play and they don't suit up that night. That factors into. So there is areas the NBA needs to fix, but overall, I don't think there's such a dilution of talent, particularly with how global the game has become in Asia and Europe and all these other places. There's not enough talent to go around for 32 basketball teams.
Yeah, there was some friction back when the Sonics left town. There was friction about the arena in Seattle. Tell us where that issue stands today. If the Sonics were to return, are they expected to play in the renovated version of that arena?
Well, it's Sam Holloway's group that buys the team, absolutely, because they have a majority controlling stake in the arena, in Climate Pledge Arena. They purchased enough of the arena here, actually completed that earlier this week, to where they got enough percentage of it from Oakview Group to become the controlling owners of the arena. So that would certainly make it easy for them. The arena itself has had space set aside for NBA locker rooms. It even has a plaque on the door saying NBA locker room, even though there hasn't been a team there yet for that. It needs to be built out if they get a team here, but it's certainly set up for them to be able to run with that if that's the case. And, going back to when the Sonics left, when they built the building and renovated the arena, it basically was obsolete day one. They made it kind of tight and intimate to be a good basketball viewing experience, but it didn't have the other revenue streams through it that made all the other teams successful. The United Center in Chicago opened the exact same year and was way more, lucrative because of all the other things they could do around the arena and in the area and all those sorts of things that Key Arena just didn't have. And so then after building Seahawks Stadium and the Mariners ballpark, the public didn't want to invest in an arena again 10 years after they'd already renovated Key Arena. So that's one of the reasons that led to the Sonics leaving in 2008. And gets to the point where they needed to have this arena come and be rebuilt and redone under the existing roof because it's a national landmark kind of thing. And they were able to find a way to make it to where it's a much bigger building. It's got everything that they need in there, and it's a really beautiful arena at this point in time. So the arena shouldn't be a problem if it's that group. If it's not, well, they'll have to negotiate a lease with those guys to use Climate Pledge Arena or look into building another arena, which is certainly why their group has a pretty significant leg up, I think, when it comes to submitting bids for this process.
Yeah, we also have this live vantage point in Vegas. That's a live look at Allegiant Stadium, the home of the Raiders. My understanding, though, is that T-Mobile Arena would be the more NBA-ready venue, obviously. Still remains to be seen exactly where any and all teams would play. By the way, you sent this out earlier this week. The NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, said there's absolutely a chance that expansion may not happen. Silver said it's 0, 1 or 2 teams are all possible, but he added that he doesn't see any reason currently why that would be the case. Cites issues outside the league and instability that could factor. So we'll have to wait and see how the bidding plays out. We'll have to wait and see how the Board of Governors looks at how to move forward with the situation. One final question. I believe the only active NBA player that's left who has played for the Supersonics before is Kevin Durant. KD played his rookie season as a member of the Sonics. And there's kind of this interesting idea floating around on social media, and I'm curious if people in Seattle are talking about this. Wouldn't it be cool if KD perhaps played his last season or two in Seattle? Is that something that people are discussing?
Oh, I totally believe it is. I mean, that's one of the sour parts about the team leaving in the first place was that Sam Presti, their general manager with the Thunder, was starting that job here in Seattle, and you could kind of see the track with, with Russell Westbrook being drafted in Seattle before moving with that team and Kevin Durant being here, that they were going to be good too. And certainly they didn't get to experience that era here in green and gold with the Sonics. And so now I believe his contract might even be up heading into that 28 season, to where I definitely think that's part of the discussion. It's sitting in the back of people's minds for sure. He's been in the city at times before. The Warriors played a preseason game up here several years ago before Key Arena was renovated into Climate Pledge Arena. He's been back for a couple other things, so he certainly has his affinity for Seattle, and I'm sure that's something fans would like to see.
We are back. Thanks for your patience.
In addition to just beating the Thunder in the first time they get a chance to play, and that's going to be top of the list for sure.
As long as KD doesn't sign any extension contracts with the Rockets.
No, what you're hearing on the mic is the camera guy's mic. My mic was off, but you're hearing the microphone from the person who is shooting the Beirut stream. So that's what you're hearing. Gotta turn that down. Okay, now we're going to get caught up here. You know, I did just see something here. CBS News is reporting that, so we've told you that multiple outlets are reporting that the Prince Sultan, I don't even know how you pronounce it, air base in Saudi Arabia anyways, I'll say Prince Sultan, but whatever. Multiple outlets report that today, Friday, the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia was hit by a missile and drone attack by Iran, and that at least 10 U.S. troops were injured, 2 seriously, although there's some different numbers floating around about that. But the various reports I've read says at least 10 injured, and several planes, refueling tankers damaged. That is the same airbase that the Wall Street Journal said, I want to say they said it happened several weeks ago. The Wall Street Journal, I want to say around 2 weeks ago or so, had reported that 5 planes had been damaged in an attack on that airbase several weeks ago. Well, CBS News is now reporting that the same airbase actually was attacked for a third time earlier this week, injuring 14 people. But the official that said that, an official told them it was a less serious attack than the one today or at the end of this week. And also, they do not know who the nationalities are of the people who were injured earlier this week. So again, CBS News is reporting that there was another attack on the same base earlier this week in which 14 people were injured. So that would make, if all the reports are true, that would make 3 attacks on this base in several weeks. And, I can't speak to the air defense of this base. Where were the air defenses? This is one of the viewers. I showed you before where this base is. It's like in the middle of Saudi Arabia. Prince Sultan Air Base, right there. See that there on Google Maps with the planes on it? Okay, so if you zoom out, I mean, there's Iran and there's Prince Sultan Air Base. Dean R. thinks air defense is failing. I don't know the details here, but sounds like this base has been targeted and hit multiple times. Now, CBS News says that in regards to the attack that happened late this week, I believe some outlets say it was today, but they say late this week. They say that one in which 10 U.S. service members were injured on the base, they say that 2 were very seriously injured and 8 were seriously injured. Some of the other outlets have different reports about the injuries. I don't know what's right. I can try to get you the latest updates from the other outlets on this. Where is it here? Yeah, AP says that there were 10 service members injured, 2 of them seriously. Austin Batman says it must mean very seriously, is critical, or even near death. So I don't know that. I haven't gotten any specifics. Maybe we'll get a statement at some point from the U.S. military about this. The Wall Street Journal says the missile and drone attack was today, and they said 10 injured, 2 seriously, and several U.S. refueling aircraft were damaged. And the Reuters report said, have they updated their report? 12 injured, 2 seriously. That's what Reuters said about this. Well, gunfire there in Beirut. We hear that once in a while. I hope all of them can survive and recover quickly. As quickly as possible. So I'll let you know if we get updates on that, but no official statement from the U.S. government on that at this point. Krimazu says, how is it possible Iran still has drone launch sites? My guess is that they might be able to launch drones pretty quickly and from, I don't know specifically what they needed a site to launch them, but maybe they can be launched pretty quickly from different locations, depending on the drone. That I don't know. Looking up to see if I see anything. For what it's worth, Gemini AI says the Shahed drones do not need any specialized launch infrastructure. They're launched from a simple angled metal rail or box-shaped rack. These racks can be mounted on the back of commercial flatbed trucks or pickup trucks. I don't know if that's... Yeah, so Wikipedia says Shahed 136, Iranian drone, is typically fired in multiples from a launch rack. Yeah, there's an article that AI cited from War on the Rocks that said the Shahed 136 Iranian drone launches from an angled rail mounted on a pickup truck, after which crews can quickly relocate. That is from War on the Rocks website. So, I mean, it's not something that's on the ground in a fixed location that they can just find and destroy. New siren in Bahrain, by the way. What is this? Hold on a moment here. So Bahrain, new siren there, warning siren, and they also had a fire there. Now, as typical from Bahrain, very little info. They said 47 minutes ago, civil defense has managed to control the fire that broke out in one of the facilities targeted by the sinful Iranian aggression. What facility got hit in Bahrain? How big a fire? They said it's under control. What does that mean? Were there injuries? No idea. No idea. And they don't say. But there was a fire at a facility from an attack, and now we have another alarm going off. And there was an alarm 34 minutes ago, and there was also an alarm 2 hours ago. The UAE has been dealing with a bunch of Iranian attacks tonight too. The genie says under control could mean it's burning and not spreading. And then UAE, you can see they had a missile threat about an hour and a half ago, and then they had one about an hour and 45 minutes ago, and they had one about 2 hours ago, and they had one, that was, so they had a bunch tonight too. I'll see what kind of updates I can find on this stuff. It's just, it can be tough to find out what's going on in these countries. They're not very free-flowing with information. Now, Iranian state media claims there was a fire at the Bapco refinery in Bahrain. I don't know that that's been confirmed by the government. Also, let's see. State news in Iran. Mer News, which is Iranian state news, claims that Israel and the U.S. attacked Tehran University of Science and Technology. Israel has been launching strikes tonight, we know, in Tehran. It's right now, actually, it's about... did I? I didn't even check the clock. I hope the clock is correct. Hold on. Yes, it is correct. 5:08 a.m. Iran time right now. weird is this? Al Arabiya 5 minutes ago reports interceptions of Iranian attacks in the capital of Bahrain. We'll try to get you more updates from there when we can. I don't think there's been a missile alert in Israel since we've been on the air. Oh no, there was one. There was one missile alert in southern Israel, and reportedly it was one missile that got intercepted. Oh, I missed this before. When one of our viewers had mentioned Saudi Arabia, and then Law Search mentioned to me, I had missed this post from, this is over an hour ago, this post, but Faye Tuck's News had said that flights inbound for a couple of airports in Saudi Arabia were holding, and said this usually happens due to the threat of missiles and drones. That post was from an hour and 15 minutes ago. So I'm also trying to check some of the messages people have been sending me. We haven't even looked at marine traffic yet. We haven't looked at marine traffic. We got to look at marine traffic. See what's going on there. Black Irish said that the first attack, that Prince Sultan Air Base was attacked on the second day of the war. I don't remember that. Was that the one where some... What's the source for this? I don't remember. I know there have reportedly been at least 3 attacks on Prince Sultan Air Base. Maybe there have been more that I forget about. Let's look on marine traffic. Make sure I'm signed in. I got to sign in. Okay, marine traffic time, ship tracking and marine analytics provider, Marine Traffic. You can go there and track ships. Now, let's go to marine traffic right now. And you're going to see the Strait of Hormuz here. And people liked, I think, the satellite map better. There you go. Now, that is looks like a Pakistani ship. Tanker, bulk carrier, Pakistani. Last position track was about 5 hours ago. What's the past track? So that could be, I mean, there have been Pakistani ships allowed through by sometimes by Iran, which by Iran. But this ship, I mean, that was 1933 UTC, 1849. So this ship has been going towards here. It's possible that this ship is just off track and it's already going through. Because when ships have been allowed through, they normally go through here. They go around Rock Island. They don't take the normal shipping track through here. They don't take the normal shipping track through here. They go around Rock Island. So this ship might pop up on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz at some point. So that's that one. And then there's this one. That is a Iranian cargo ship. If you can see that there, Iranian cargo ship. Maybe they're letting that go through. I don't know. Past track is... Oh, that came from the, you'll see, it came from the Red Sea. And then it went over here. But that's an Iranian cargo ship. If you missed it, President Trump said that the present which Iran gave him 2 days ago was allowing some, I believe it was Pakistani tankers to go through the Strait of Hormuz. Let me just try to get you something on that. Or was it a gift he called it? Trump said that the present that Iran gave him was that they had allowed multiple oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. I'm not sure, because I know Iran has been allowing a handful of ships through. Possibly they might have been paid to allow some of them through. I don't know. President Trump said, they said to show you the fact that we're real and solid and we're there, we're going to let you have 8 boats of oil. He said the number of tankers ultimately reached 10. And he said, I said, well, I guess we're dealing with the right people. I don't know that any of that oil went to the U.S. though. Let me see if I can pull up here when he said it. I know the event he said it at. I'm just not sure where in the event he said it. So it's possible I can quickly pull it up and just let you see it. This was during the cabinet meeting, but the cabinet meeting is an hour and 40 minutes long, so I'm not going to play the whole cabinet meeting, but maybe I can find the place where he talked about it. If somebody knows the time code from the White House... Oh, I found it. I found the part where he talks about it. Okay, I'm going to show you what President Trump said about this present or gift. This was yesterday, and I need to get it on the screen right now for you. So I'll put it right here. And that is from yesterday. So now I have to put yesterday up. Okay, let me play this for you. Here's what he had to say. Because I know a couple days ago when he talked about getting this present, a bunch of you were saying, what is the present? You were wondering what the present was. I think I have it queued up here.
Supreme Court has really hurt our country too.
Mr. President, do you have a new deadline, given that there are some talks now? Do you have a new deadline before taking?
No, I'll announce it. I mean, right now, you're talking about a deadline for doing some pretty big damage, even bigger than we've done. We'll see. Look, we have very substantial talks going on with respect to Iran, with the right people. You know, I told you about a present, right? Steve, can I reveal the present?
You can do anything you want, sir.
They said to show you the fact that we're real and solid and we're there. We're going to let you have 8 boats of oil, 8 boats, 8 big boats of oil. This was 2 days ago. And they'll sail up tomorrow. That was 3 days ago. And I didn't think much about it. And then I watched the news and they said, a very good anchor actually, happened to be Fox, but I watched it and he said, something's unusual happening. There are 8 boats that are going right up the middle of the Hormuz Strait. 8 big tankers are going loaded up with oil right through. And I said, well, I guess they were right, and they were real. And I think they were Pakistani flagged. Yes. And I said, well, I guess we're dealing with the right people. And actually, they then apologized for something they said, and they said, we're going to send 2 more boats. And it ended up being 10 boats. All right. I hope I haven't screwed up your negotiations, but I thought it was appropriate to say, because I did taunt you the other day by saying they're going to give us a present.
Yeah, there were 2 illegal immigrants who were arrested at San Francisco airport for ignoring.
I wanted to show you that, just to update you, because people were wondering, a lot of people, what the present was. That's what he said it was. That's what he said. Oh, there was another thing I wanted to show you from yesterday. When did that happen? Hold on a second. I'm going to see if I can find it. I really want to show you this other thing happen. Okay, hold on. I think I can find it here. Okay, that is at 1:19, I think. I'm going to find this for you. Hang on. All right, I'm going to play you something, but I'm going to play you the question, and then Trump and Pete Hegseth both talk. The question's about Iran, but there's one specific thing I want to make sure you hear, but I'll play you the whole, it's like a couple minutes, just a couple minutes. You get to hear what both him and Hegseth had to say. It's about Iran. Okay, I think it's right here. Here we go. Why am I still hearing this? Okay, here we go.
Good product.
So you gave a 5-day deadline. With oil tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz, is that a condition to move that 5-day deadline?
Well, we don't want anything impeded. We want ships to go through. We don't know that they've.
By the way, I don't even think we talked about the 10-day. There's now a 10-day deadline. The new deadline is April 6th. April 6th at 8 p.m. ET, I believe. We can take a look at that after. But here's what President Trump said yesterday.
They've dropped any mines, by the way, because we blew up all their mine droppers, right? We blew up every one of them. They're going to have to take them out on a rowboat. We don't know that they've dropped any mines, by the way, because we blew up all their mine droppers, right? We blew up every one of them. They're going to have to take them out on a rowboat or something. I don't know how the hell they get out there, but we don't really know. You might speak to it. We don't know. There could be a few of them out there, but that's a lot. You know, if you have $1 billion ship and you get hit by a mine, it's not the greatest thing in the world. So if you think, the problem with that, that's not like you've decimated a military. If you think there may be a mine, that's a bad thought, and it stops things up. How are we doing in that regard, Peter?
Mr. President, you're right. We have so heavily degraded their coastal defense capabilities and their naval capabilities that any strategic or operational attempts to do those types of things are extremely limited. And we continue to move over the top of that. Now, whether Iran makes a wise choice or not to try to execute that is part of how this deal comes together. But with every passing day, the military pressure that we're putting on them lessens their ability to really hold that militarily at issue.
I mean, the problem with the issue of the Hormuz Straits is this. We've decimated them as a military. No Air Force, no Navy, very few rockets left. We blew up so many. Hard to manufacture them. Same thing with drones. The leadership is gone. The problem with the Straits is this. Let's say we do a great job. We say we got 99%. 1% is unacceptable because 1% is a missile going into the hull of a ship that cost $1 billion, right? So 1% is we can't. If we do a 99% decimation, that's no good. So it's really, you know, a little bit. But I have a feeling it's going to clean up pretty quickly. I can just say this: they want to make, and I probably hurt our little negotiation. It gives them a little impetus to say, well, I wish you didn't say that. But they said yesterday that we weren't negotiating with them, and now they admit that we were negotiating with them. So they want to make a deal. The reason they want to make a deal is they have been just beat to shit.
So are you thinking of taking control of Iran's oil?
Okay, that's what I wanted to play for you. Now there's some sort of alert, early warning alert for northern Israel. Possible missile alerts coming up, and this is for the north. You can see near the border, northern Israel, early warning alerts here. Everything in the red is an early warning area. Early warning. I don't have a Haifa cam. It's even north of Haifa. So, you can check out Intel cams might have something where they show this. You might see it on Intel cams on YouTube, so you can go look there. Hang on a second here. Trying to look at Intel cams. I'm not getting anything. Anyone else having a problem with Intel cams, or is it just on my end? Let's try it again. I'm trying to refreshing Intel cams. It's the wrong one. I don't have the Middle East one up. Where's the Middle East one? Oh, I can see it now. It's working. So we expect to see some actual missile sirens happening shortly. But this is again north of it, northern Israel, near the Lebanon border. By the way, thanks to Sparky Gene, I appreciate it. Sparky Gene, we're not going to have we're not going to do coverage of the No Kings marches in and of themselves, because I anticipate being covering this, but I'll keep an eye on it. I mean, if something kind of crazy happens or whatever, extremely, unexpected or significant, we will, or different, we'll cover it. But maybe we'll have some updates about it during our coverage of the war. Oops, it shouldn't say yesterday. This is live. So you can see there are missile alerts going off, missile sirens in northern Israel, in a couple locations there. Yeah, north of the Sea of Galilee. Andrea Jean mentioned the Sea of Galilee, north of there. I need to thank some more people too, which I will in a second. I don't know, let me just do a quick check here and see. Oh, sorry, Intel Cams is on your screen. It should not be. There you go. Sorry, it was on for a second. I'm looking at Intel Camps myself. I would encourage you to go check it out on YouTube. But let me just see here. I was going to see if there's any more word about these alerts from Israel. Okay, yes. Well, 7 minutes ago they said launches from Iran. Are there any more alerts? Now I don't see any up there, but there's. I don't know if the situation has ended. I don't believe the incident is declared over yet. But no active sirens right now. Thanks also to Cowboy Bob. Cowboy Bob says the U.S. target is Bandar Abbas, Iran. We'll wait for 11th MEU Marine Expeditionary Unit, late April, age-old war game, and the exact force package, says Cowboy Bob. Thanks, Cowboy Bob. Thanks also to Afton Dill. Afton Dill, I have not heard any statement from anyone in the U.S. government on the record or military yet about the reported attack in Saudi Arabia that reportedly wounded at least 10 U.S. troops and damaged planes. We'll see what we hear. Thank you also, Dickens. Thank you so much. Gamer Dude. Thank you, Gamer Dude. Inhalation Aerosol. Thank you. Live Animal from India. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't even mentioned that story. We might mention it briefly in a couple of minutes. The thing about the emails of an Iranian hacker group said they hacked Kash Patel's personal email when it was emails from several years ago. So we'll talk about that in a second. Thank you, Live Animal. Kelly Me. Thank you, Kelly Me. I appreciate it. Tooth THRHR, thank you. Limbo 271100, who says petrol in the Netherlands is now $2.63 per liter. Where is the, hold on. Should be getting some sound from the video. Thank you also to Disco Inferno over there on Twitch for subscribing. One moment here. We didn't even get to finish looking at marine traffic. Here, you can see this right here. Pro-Iranian group claims credit for hack of FBI Director Kash Patel's personal account. A pro-Iranian hacking group claimed to have hacked an account of FBI Director Kash Patel and posted online what appear to be years-old photographs of him, along with a work resume and other personal documents dating back more than a decade. A message from the group said, Kash Patel, the current head of the FBI, who once saw his name displayed with pride on the agency's headquarters, will now find his name among the list of successfully hacked victims. The message was accompanied by a collection of photographs of Patel, including ones of him standing beside an antique sports car and another with a cigar in his mouth. The group said it was making available for download emails and other documents from Patel's account. Many of the records appeared to relate to his personal travels and business from more than 10 years ago. The FBI said it had taken all necessary steps to mitigate potential risks associated with this activity, and said the information in question is historical in nature and involves no government information. The Trump administration is offering a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to the identification of members of the Handela hacking group, an entity, it says, that has frequently targeted U.S. government officials. Handela is a pro-Iranian, pro-Palestinian hacking group that earlier this month claimed credit for disrupting systems at Stryker, a Michigan-based medical technology company. Handela said that attack was in retaliation for suspected U.S. strikes that killed Iranian school children. I believe that there's a suspected connection between Handela and the Iranian government. So this is a post from July 19th from the U.S. Department of Justice. They say, hold on. That's about Handela domains. I want to give you... the New York Times has an article from today that says Handela is associated with Iran's Ministry of Intelligence and Security. Oh, hearing some coyotes or something, I think. Listen. Or hyenas or something. One of our viewers says jackals. N12 News says that the northern Israel missile alerts were due to there was fire coming from Iran and Lebanon, but hits were identified in open areas. So missiles or rockets, the Israeli government allows those to hit open areas if they're not threatening anyone. I think he's watching TV. We gotta turn that down. Seeing another video. I just saw a video, well, I think it's the same one that was floating around earlier, maybe. There's a video floating around supposedly showing an Iranian missile hitting a target in Bahrain. But that might be from earlier tonight. Oh, somebody wanted to see the last 24 hours in the Strait of Hormuz. We can show you that. No, I don't have any updates on the attack on the U.S. base. Oh, and I should show you Trump's post about the new deadline. Also update the headline. The Trump deadline that he gave to, that he's extended twice now to Iran. JD63 says it ended up being 2 more weeks after all. So this was yesterday, right? This was yesterday in the afternoon when President Trump said, if you remember, yesterday in the afternoon, as per Iranian government request, he says, please let this statement serve to represent that I am pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Talks are ongoing, and despite erroneous statements to the contrary by the fake news media and others, they are going very well. Pine Green says, are we still paying attention to these deadlines? Sean thinks they're going to escalate and go long. I think that's what Sean's saying the U.S. is going to do. Mantrope thinks it was all for the markets. There was a bunch of talk about this yesterday because the markets did not do well yesterday, and President Trump posted this 11 minutes after the stock market closed. I can't say what was in his head when he posted this. The stock market had one of its worst days on the year on Thursday. And then he posted that about the deadline. And then, I have an update for you, by the way. The Wall Street Journal now reports 12 troops were injured in the strike on the Saudi air base, including 2 seriously. 2 suffered significant injuries while 10 were concussed, one of the officials said. They were inside a building on the base that was struck in the attack. Multiple refueling aircraft, U.S. refueling aircraft, were damaged. At least 1 missile and several drones hit the base. So the Wall Street Journal says there were 12 injuries in that attack today, and 12 U.S. soldiers injured, and 10 were concussed, and 2 were significantly injured. Also, Iran claimed, as we said before, that Israel hit 2 of Iran's largest steel plants, including Mobaraka Steel in Isfahan and Khuzestan Steel in Avaz. Tim Bahran says, yep, talks are going very well. Pause strikes while they are firing multiple missiles and drones, and our troops are getting hurt or killed. Now, the U.S. hasn't, they paused the strikes, he said, these proposed strikes on their energy facilities. But we know Israel has still been hitting Iran tonight. Maybe the U.S. has been too. Oh, regarding the 10,000 troops being deployed, that's a Wall Street Journal report that I told you about earlier that says that the Wall Street Journal says President Trump is considering, the Pentagon is considering whether to send another 10,000 ground troops. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, Black Irish mentioned to me that there's a story that we probably talked about this weeks ago, that the Army had said that a U.S. soldier had died. I think he was the 7th one who was announced to have died. And that was the day after the war started. And it was an attack on the Prince Sultan Air Base. the same one that was hit, according to the Wall Street Journal today. Thanks, Black Irish. I didn't see that before. So that air base has had at least one attack where a soldier was killed the day after the war started. And the Wall Street Journal says it was attacked today, and 12 troops injured. And there was also, I believe the Wall Street Journal said there was an attack on the same base, and 5 planes were just damaged, I think a couple weeks ago. And then CBS News says there was another attack on that base earlier this week where 14 people were injured, but unclear what nationality. Now that would be 4 attacks on the base. By the way, the George H.W. Bush aircraft carrier is headed towards the Middle East. That was scheduled before. That's not a surprise. But that will be the 3rd one in the region. But remember, the Gerald R. Ford is undergoing repairs after a fire. And ABC News says it's unclear if the Ford will return to the CENTCOM area of operations after repairs, or if it'll stay in the Eastern Mediterranean. Yes, the fire, some of our viewers are saying that reportedly started in the laundry area. According to the military, I believe they said that. This is interesting. I saw a quote from Marco Rubio from today. Do I have the actual... I might have the actual remarks here. Transcript. Let's see. You know, Rubio, there's a reporter for Financial Times, Abigail House-Lohner, said that Rubio told the G7 that the U.S. is not expecting the strait to reopen to traffic as usual by the end of the war. After this thing ends, one of the immediate challenges we're going to face is Iran may decide that they want to set up a tolling system in the Strait of Hormuz. But then he also said that was unacceptable. I'm looking at his remarks right now. And he said, I'm looking at remarks he said to the press today. I believe this was today. Yes, this was today. And he said, there are some in the Iranian regime that are going around saying that they want to make the Strait of Hormuz tolling thing. They want to make it permanent. Rubio said, that's unacceptable. The whole world should be outraged by it. We're impacted by it a little bit, but the rest of the world has impacted it by a lot more, including many of the countries represented today here at the G7. And so if these countries are deeply impacted by it, all we've said is you guys need to do something about it. We'll help you. But you guys are going to need to be ready to do something about, because when this conflict ends and this operation ends, if the Iranians decide, well, now we control the Straits of Hormuz, and you can only go through here if you pay us, and we allow you to. That's not only is it illegal under international law and maritime law, it's unacceptable, and that can't be allowed to exist, Rubio said. And so what we have said, Rubio said, is that the countries that are most impacted by this, that should be willing to do something about it, and will help them. He said this earlier today. He was answering questions, I believe, in France. Was he meeting with G7 nations or something? This was in France. The Department of State released this transcript. Oh, there's a story on it. Hold on. Video for it too. Rubio says Iran war to last weeks, not months. No ground troops needed. I'm going to get you that video so you can see it. Hold on. Secretary of State Rubio said today that the U.S. expects its military operations against Iran to conclude within weeks, not months. Meanwhile, an Iranian attack on an airbase in Saudi Arabia seriously wounded 2 U.S. military personnel and injured another 10. Here, let me show you this video here that goes along with that article. If I can. Here it is. Oopsie. Hang on.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Friday the United States could achieve its objectives in Iran without the use of...
Hold on one moment. We'll get it for you now. We're about to get you the video from that story.
The United States could achieve its objectives in Iran without the use of any ground. State Marco Rubio.
Here we go. Here is the video from Reuters about what Rubio was saying today for you to see. Here we go.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Friday the United States could achieve its objectives in Iran without the use of any ground troops. He also said he expected the operation to conclude in a matter of weeks, despite recent deployments of additional forces to the region.
As the Department of War has consistently outlined, we are on or ahead of schedule in that operation and expect to conclude it at the appropriate time here in a matter of weeks, not months. And the progress is going very well. Obviously, we have some work to do. We have to finish the job, and we are finishing that job.
Rubio spoke to reporters after meeting with G7 foreign ministers in France to discuss the conflict launched by the U.S. and Israel late last month. He said Iran may decide to set up a tolling system for the Strait of Hormuz and insisted that European and Asian countries that benefit from trade through the waterway should contribute to efforts to secure free passage through the strait once the conflict ends. This comes on the same day that 2 Chinese container ships turned back after trying to exit the Gulf via the strait, as indicated by the green triangles in this ship tracking data, despite assurances from Iran that Chinese vessels could pass. The operator of the ships was not immediately available for comment. Iranian state media reported Friday that 3 container ships of various nationalities were turned back from the Strait of Hormuz after warnings from the Revolutionary Guard's naval force. The war and the effective closure of the waterway that about 1/5 of the world's oil and gas traverses have led to a surge in oil prices as the conflict continues. Benchmark Brent futures have risen more than 50% since the war began and briefly topped $119 a barrel last week after Iran attacked energy targets across the Middle East and threatened vessels attempting to sail through the strait. Some analysts polled by Reuters said oil could hit $200 a barrel if Iranian export facilities are damaged. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Friday the United States could achieve its objectives in Iran without...
You know, it's interesting that the administration, we heard Carolyn Levitt, the press secretary, a couple times in the press briefing a few days ago, kept saying 4 to 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, we're on track. It's like they have this fixed schedule. It's interesting to hear it talked about as if like, I guess normally you'd think of a war as like, well, you want to accomplish a certain thing, not necessarily on a schedule, but they've been mentioning this schedule. We'll see what happens. We'll see if it's weeks. Well, we're just about at 4 weeks. Hey, we're almost at 4 weeks. Week 5 is starting in 2.5 hours, basically. Daisy Clementine Love, our viewer, says still on schedule. Some of our viewers said there's another missile alert in the UAE. Obsidian thinks it'll be years. Hang on. 2 weeks plus 2 weeks, etc. Says, I think it was McMahon or something. Week 5 is coming up. No, one of our viewers, Harvey, says they keep moving the goalposts. Yes, another missile threat in the UAE. They had several of these earlier this evening, and they are reporting another missile threat. Air defense systems are currently responding to another missile threat in the UAE. Ladina says every 2 weeks for the next 52 weeks? Tiger Woods' mugshot has been released, by the way, after his DUI arrest. I'll post a link in the chat. BNO News and others posted it. Thanks, by the way, to John Deeds for your support. I appreciate it, John Deeds. Also, Mitchell Pilot. Mitchell said, Trump also said, I will end it when I feel it in my bones. Mitchell says, so when the arthritis really kicks in, I guess it'll be all over. Thank you also. No, Shadow Fox. Shadow Fox says a number of U.S. Marines captured on Karg Island during a failed landing attempt. Is this true? Given that I have not seen that literally anywhere besides your message, I'm going to say it's not true. Thank you, Shadow Fox, though, for supporting the channel. I appreciate it. Also, Sean R. for the gift memberships. Thank you so much, Sean R. Also, Billy Cusack. I don't know if I thanked Billy before. Thank you, Billy Cusack. The conference hasn't happened yet. It's coming up. Billy, thank you. And Greg Pondell. I think I thanked Greg before, but thanks again, Greg. Via Thomas says, why are we spending so much money on Israel? I'll have the volume down here, sorry. Let's see. Let's go to marine traffic and do the last 24 hours of marine traffic tracking in the Strait of Hormuz. Marinetraffic.com. Marinetraffic.com. It's like a flight tracker, but for ships. Ship tracking and marine analytics provider. So I'm going to play the last 24 hours in the Strait. Playback, date range, custom, 1 24-hour period. And hold on, what I'll do is I'll put the, I wish I could move the timeline. I'll put the timeline on the top. Here, there's the timeline right there. I got to speed it up, though. It's not fast enough. All right, so this is this one of these ships that turned around? Hold on. Yes, those are the ships that turned around. There were three I think they were ultra large tankers. They're Chinese tankers. And it looked like they were going to go through, but they didn't. I don't know why that happened. I don't know why they headed there and then turn down the speed a little bit here. So that's two of them. They got all the way to Laroque Island. Then they just were turned back somehow for some reason. There they go. Bye. There were 3 ships like that that didn't make it through. Don't know why. All right, so let's keep watching here. You can see the timeline on the top. See up here? Up here, you should be able to see it up here. It's 24 hours worth. Not much other activity on camera at the moment from that period of the day. We're gradually moving forward on the timeline there. Probably about 6 hours in to the last 24 hours. Maybe I'll speed it up a little bit. Speed it up a little bit. Okay. Oh, now this ship here, there's the ship Tiara. I don't know if that ship went through the other way, the one called Tiara. Sometimes they stop being tracked in the, maybe they turn off their transponders in the middle, I'm not sure. We'll have to look up Tiara. Then there's another ship called Saphira. Look at Saphira coming up. See Saphira? I'll have to look up that one too. Now, oh, but that turned around as well. That might have been another one of the, was that another one of the tankers? Because that one turned around. Then there's Genevieve. I mean, not a lot of activity, as you can see, the last 24 hours. I think is red and green just the speed they're moving at, maybe? I'm not sure. I got to look that up. Now, some of these, like Bahout, I need to look up their past track. The bird noises are coming from the Beirut Stream. Let's look up that ship. So that's the last 24 hours. You just saw it. Okay. Let's look up the ship Saphira. Now that's current. What is red versus... I don't even know what red versus green is. Oh, oil tanker versus bulk carrier, one of our viewers said. Is that what it is? There's a key here somewhere. I really should look it up. Where's the key? Weather density playback. Voyage planner. Layers. Layers? Let's give it to you. How about key? I got to look it up. What was that ship I was going to look up? Saphira? Saphira. Was that the one? That is a livestock carrier under the flag of Antigua and something. So did that go through the strait? Let's see. Saphira, past track. Yeah, so I don't know if this ship was trying to go through too, the Saphira, which is a livestock carrier. It got pretty close too, and then it just turned around, as you can see. There's the route for Saphira. Can I do the play of the route? Let's see here. Will it work? Yeah, see, it got up there, and then it just turned around. Back to the port, said one of our viewers, said NTO, I think it was. Or N, I think. But again, that's the Saphira ship. And look, Saphira is a livestock carrier under a flag of Antigua and Barbuda. Maybe a lot of livestock on it. Tuwan says livestock carrier is crazy. Anyway, so you can check out marinetraffic.com. It's like Noah's Ark, said one of our viewers. Now, where is, what just happened here? Oh, this up here. All right. Oh, wow. J.D. Walker said moving through the Strait of Hormuz. I better not do the livestock carrier again, because that's what happens when I do it. Yes, the color of each vessel icon on marine traffic notates the subject vessel's type, says marine traffic. You may use the live map toolbar filters to choose. Oh, look at this, guys. Look at this on marine traffic here. If I can pull it up for you, I'm going to show you. So back to marine traffic for the moment, and if we look at the Strait of Hormuz there, and what I can do is pull up the filters. Oh, can you ship type? Oh, can you see this? Look at the top right corner. See, those are the colors. We got green cargo, red tanker, blue passenger vessel, yellow high-speed craft, light blue tugs and special craft. Also, we have fishing, pleasure craft, navigation aids, and unspecified ships. There you go. Okay. Give me a moment. Hang on. I gotta plug this in. Sorry. Almost nothing to see here, said Armageddon. Yeah, I know. It's been not that much traffic there. Now, hang on. Hey, thanks Brian Davio and Lisa Perkins for the Facebook stars. Triangle is when they're stopped, is when they're moving, and the direction they're moving in. Circle is when it's stopped. Like that's a circle, it's 0.2 knots. That's red, and that's an arrow, and it's 7.5 knots. So the triangle means it's moving, plus the direction. Circle is stopped. marinetraffic.com. CNN is also now reporting that attack on the base in Saudi Arabia that lots of other outlets are reporting. CNN says at least 10 service members from the U.S. were injured in an Iranian attack on Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. Now CNN has an update on the injuries. They say at least 2 of the injured had shrapnel wounds that are considered not life-threatening, and several other service members were impacted. Also, CNN says a refueler tanker aircraft was damaged. The Wall Street Journal says multiple aircraft were damaged, refueling aircraft. And Wall Street Journal said the attack involved a missile and drones. Let me check for some other updates here. Where is this? There's a headline on Financial Times now, global markets recoil as Marco Rubio warns war in Iran could stretch for weeks. He did say weeks today. He said that the war would end in a matter of weeks, not months. He said the conflict could carry on for an additional 2 to 4 weeks, says Financial Times. And the Financial Times says stocks sold off on Friday, second steep day of fall in a row, as traders recoiled at the possibility that the war was unlikely to end soon. Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz has dropped by 97% during the war. In the previous equivalent time period, 1,743 tankers went through the strait. During the war, 32 tankers have gone through the strait. Our viewer, Buy Your Own, says dozens or hundreds of weeks is technically still weeks. I do think something that that people need to be thinking about is if President Trump decides to escalate things, which may happen because all these troops are heading to the Middle East now, right? More troops. If he decides to escalate things with troops, doing who knows what, trying to take Karg Island or something. Remember, the Houthis said today that their finger was on the trigger to get directly military involved, and one of the things they would get involved for, they said, is if the U.S. and Israel escalate against Iran. So, if we have a U.S. escalation, will we then have, yes, as one of our viewers, Barry says, the Houthis try to close the Red Sea by attacking shipping in the Red Sea? Which would, I think, you'd see a huge oil price increase if that happened. Sharkingly thinks it seems inevitable. Ooh, interesting. I saw an interesting claim by Institute for the Study of War that I want to mention. Evelyn in Maine just mentioned it too. Is this... Hold on. So there's an update today from the Institute for the Study of War on what's going on with Iran, and I'm going to mention a couple things from it. I will post a link with the whole article in the chat. You can find it at understandingwar.org. So I'm posting the link in the chat. One thing they say is Iran may be attempting to maximize the effects of its limited capacity to launch large missile salvos at Israel by launching small missile salvos throughout the day to impose psychological effects on Israeli civilians by consistently forcing them to take shelter and keeping the country under constant alert. I think some of our viewers have talked about this. I mean, it seems to me that most of their missile attacks on Israel are one missile or a couple missiles. A lot of times it's one missile. But, you do that, and all of these people need to, go into their shelters, big alerts and everything. Now, some of these missiles have killed people too. So the ISW says that Iran has launched between 5 and 11 missile barrages at Israel per day over the past week. That means, and the IDF said Iran has launched about 10 missiles per day at Israel, which suggests each barrage is either a single missile or a small number of missiles. They are spreading out their launches throughout the day, often pausing for several hours between launches. Missiles take about 10 minutes to reach Israel once launched. Spreading out the missile launches over a long period of time presumably increases the number of times per day Israeli civilians must seek shelter. They also say such a strategy is suboptimal and likely reflects the U.S.-Israeli combined forces' degradation of Iran's ability to launch large-scale missile attacks. ISW says Iran has long sought to overwhelm Israeli air defenses through large missile and drone strike packages. I know from, last year and the year before, if I remember correctly, you had occasions where Iran would launch a lot of missiles at once. They say Iran launched hundreds of ballistic and cruise missiles and one-way attack drones targeting Israel in April and October 2024. The decline could also reflect a deliberate Iranian strategy to protect their missile launchers from combined force airstrikes by only fielding a small number of launchers at a time. Makes sense too. They also say Iran is, hold on. Institute for Study of War says Iran has increasingly used cluster munitions in its attacks on Israel during the war, which likely reflects Iran's inability to meaningfully threaten discrete military targets in Israel and efforts to inflict psychological effects on Israeli civilians. Cluster munitions disperse over a wide area and are intended to maximize damage. In a sense, but I read an article that said a couple weeks ago said that each submunition in the cluster munition has about the damage power of a grenade, the article said. So one of the submunitions would have less damage than like a normal missile warhead. That's not a cluster would, but it can put damage in multiple areas. Also, I believe if I remember right, we read an article about cluster warheads a couple weeks ago, but they separate, and then once they separate, you can't just intercept the missile because now you have about 24 different cluster munitions flying through the air. The article from a couple weeks ago, I'd have to look up about the cluster munitions. The one a couple weeks ago said a couple dozen, but I don't know. The IDF said on March 10 around 50% of the missiles Iran was firing at Israel contained cluster munition warheads. This has increased to around 70%. Okay. If you go to this article, they actually have graphs of how many Iranian missiles and drones have been fired at the UAE over time. And at Kuwait over time, and at Bahrain over time, and at Saudi Arabia over time. You can look those up at the Institute of Study of War article. Yeah, I'll post a link to the article from Reuters about the cluster munitions. That was from about a week ago. And a couple things they said is, they said these cluster missiles. An Israeli military official said Iranian cluster warheads have about 24 submunitions, each containing approximately 2 to 5 kilograms of explosives. They break apart at an altitude of 7 to 10 kilometers above the ground, creating dozens of separate impact sites. Its effect is similar to each submunition's effect is similar to the explosion of a grenade. To prevent damage, said an expert in this article, they must be intercepted above the atmosphere as far as possible from the target area. There's no other way, because once the cluster bombs are released in the atmosphere, you cannot intercept them. Hey, it's getting light out. Grenades that flip cars. There was a video of a car being flipped. I don't know if I have that video here. From one of the, I believe, a cluster munition. Yeah, so again, I can't speak for all the missiles. I just, in that one article, that's what was said. But maybe there's some cluster munitions where they're greater than that. Barry says the kinetic energy would add a lot of power. Oh, by the way, thank you so much to, first of all, Roger Shoemaker says a beautiful morning on that shot from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much to, I got to shout out a couple people here. Thank you to T88. Hey, T88, that's really kind of you. Thanks for all your support. That's really nice of you. T88 says, it seems we are heading towards escalation. I still support our president in his plan. Thank you, T88. Also very nice of you, G2TFL, who says, I think President Trump may be asked to authorize the use of thermobaric weapons against Iran. That's what GT2TFL says. I have not really heard those discussed in the context of this conflict. Thermobaric weapons, or called an aerosol bomb or a vacuum bomb as well, is a type of explosive munition that works by dispersing an aerosol cloud of gas, liquid, or powdered explosives. This allows the chemical combustion to proceed using the atmospheric oxygen. International law does not prohibit the use of thermobaric weapons, fuel air explosive devices, or vacuum bombs against military targets. As of 2024 March, all past attempts to regulate or restrict thermobaric weapons have failed. HMN says thermobaric are savage. Gemini AI says they release a fuel cloud which ignites and consumes atmospheric oxygen, creating a high-temperature, long-duration shock wave designed for maximum destruction in enclosed spaces like bunkers and tunnels. They produce severe thermal and pressure injuries. Thank you again, G2FL. Also, G2FL, thank you again. G2FL thinks President Trump might keep extending his deadline. G2FL might keep extending his deadline until after the USS Gerald R. Ford returns to service. That's what G2FL thinks. We don't know if that's going to return to the region or not. It's currently getting repairs for the fire. Hey, thanks Joe9611 for your support. Joe says it's about maintaining the U.S. dominance of the petrodollar, also nukes Trump track record with foreign relations. I'll give the benefit of the doubt. Thank you also again, TE88, for your support. Very kind of you. Terrapin Station, thanks for being a member. Fairy Mom, I haven't heard anything about this. Some of our viewers talked about a CNN crew held in custody. Is that in Iran? Is that true? I hadn't seen reports about it. I don't know where people are hearing this. Again, I don't know where that report is coming from. I haven't seen it. Some viewers have said it. Oh, in Israel? Oh, in Israel, not Iran. In Israel, I'm sorry. She had asked about Israel. Fairy Mom. Oh, CNN said that 12 hours after Israeli settlers brutally attacked several Palestinians and established a new illegal outpost in their village, the Israeli military stepped in, but instead of detaining settlers or dismantling the illegal outpost, the soldiers targeted the Palestinian residents of Taysir and a CNN team. They said one of the soldiers put a CNN photojournalist in a chokehold, and the crew was detained. And they were detained for 2 hours. If you want to read about that, you can go to CNN. The article is Israeli Soldiers Echo Settler Ideology, Talk of Revenge After Targeting Palestinians and Detaining CNN Crew in the West Bank. Thank you, Fairy Mom, again. Also thanks to EJ Rod for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks Cece for your support on Twitch. Thanks Buy Your Own, who gave 5 gift subs on Twitch. That's really nice of you. Shout out to all of our moderators too. On Facebook, on Twitch, Idaho Star, Surly Dev, I Got That Fire. Linda Belk, Misha Larry on X, Ruth over there. Thank you so much, Ruth. And Beth Mythical, who are moderating on YouTube. Big thank you. We could not have our chat